All right, enough. I've had it. I'm officially declaring a moratorium on the words defensive runs saved. I don't want to hear about outs. I don't want to hear about outs above average. I don't want to see your heat maps. And if one more person mentions Alex Bregman's defensive versatility as the reason we need to bring him back up the Brinks trucks, I'm going to lose it. What are we doing here? Like, seriously, what are we doing? We just watched this team go into Yankee Stadium for a wild card series and get shut out. We got dominated by a rookie pitcher who was in AAA 10 minutes ago. We didn't lose that series because a third baseman failed to range 3 feet to his left. We lost because we couldn't put up a crooked number on the scoreboard to save our lives. And yet, you go on social media and it's a seminar on preventative run value. It's ridiculous. Since when did we become obsessed with the forest for the trees that we forgot how you actually win games, and that's to put up runs? Period. Imagine 2004. Imagine telling Terry Francona, hey, we can't play Manuel Ramirez. His defensive metrics are a disaster. He's a liability in left. You know what Manny did? He won the World Series MVP because he hit everything that moved. In 2013, I watched David Ortiz step up against Joaquin Benoit. The bases were loaded. Torrey Hunter's feet go flying over his head, does a somersault. Ball lands in the bullpen. He sent the ball into orbit, tie game. And we're going to sit here in 2026 and say, yeah, but Big Poppy's WAR is low because he doesn't have a glove. It's stupid. It's flat out stupid. We're overvaluing the stop and completely ignoring the go. If you can't hit, you're just a very expensive spectator with a nice glove. I don't want a gold glove. I want someone who makes the other pitcher sweat. I want silver bats. Let's stop pretending defense by itself wins championships because we're getting shut out by rookies. It's embarrassing. I just can't take one more defensive metric shoved down my throat about Alex Bregman. It's bullshit. And that's my rant before you start the show off. Now I'll do the official intro as we normally do.
60-40, a Red Sox podcast. Big John and Sean, hot takes, special guests. It's a 60-40. Hey.
I am your co-host, Big John. Alongside me is my other co-host, Stone Cold, Sean Jones, and together we are 64 deep, a Red Sox podcast. Sean, how you been?
I'm good, man. It's good to be back. I love a good rant, so, do your thing, and I'll enjoyed sitting back listening to that. So
I'm just tired of it, man. I'm tired of watching people. And look, I'm okay with us bringing Alex Bregman back. We'll talk about that. I think we'd be a better team with him back. I just don't want people trying to shove it down my throat about the defensive metrics, and somehow by us having these improved defensive metrics, that justifies the contract and that he's better than some of the other players we'll talk about today. It's just not true. It's just not true. I don't want to hear it anymore. It's stupid. Like, it's stupid.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, look at the Dodgers. They've got Teoscar Hernandez playing a arguably piss poor right field out there. They've got
Correct.
Mookie Betts playing out of position in the infield. I know that's where he started, but we know he was a Gold Glove right fielder with the Red Sox, one of the best defensive outfielders in baseball. And they're playing him in the infield on necessity. The same thing that a lot of fans don't want to do with Rafaela, for example, moving him to the infield. And I get why, but I'm just saying that look at the team that's won 2 straight World Series. They have similar defensive shortcomings and or difficult decisions on where to play guys. And it has worked out just fine because they have a very good pitching staff and 3 top 10 level offensive hitters that are as consistent as they come.
You're right. And it's not that I don't value defensive prowess, defensive metrics. Of course, they're important. 2004, when we traded Nomar away, that was part of the issue and brought in Orlando Cabrera, Doug Minkiewicz. I'm not even saying that Lowe's booted double play ball in game 3 of the wild card didn't mean something. It's a different story if you're also putting up runs. Low's double play means nothing because they scored 0 runs. So instead of
Yeah,
giving up
it's fair.
2, right, you give up 2, it's 2-0 instead of 4-0. So it's irrelevant. And that's my problem behind it. Like, you got to be able to score runs first. You don't win a game 0-0. You got to be able to score runs. Once that's in place, then you can tinker with your lineup to try to get a better defensive, defensive starting 9 behind you, right? But that needs to happen after you have a team that can actually hit. So that's why I don't want to hear about defensive metrics anymore, justifying a $30 million contract, $30 million AAV contract.
Yeah.
So, anything good for Christmas, Sean? What'd you get? Give me one thing.
I got a good amount of stuff. I got a couple pairs of sneakers that I'd been wanting. Couple IOUs for like some concert tickets, / sporting events. A lot of clothes. We did a little different this year. My mom took us out to the mall and was like, pick out 10 things you like and I'll buy half of them. So it's at least a little bit of a surprise just because we're getting to that age where it's a little harder to shop for people. And after having bought people so many things. So, and I felt similarly getting gifts for others as well. So, but it was good holidays overall. Got to see a lot of family. So it was a good time.
My mom does the same thing, but I wish not as well festive as your mother does. She's like, well, what do you want? All right, go on Amazon, buy, I'll give you the money. I'm like, well, that defeats the purpose of it.
You gotta at least open it up from under the tree and whatnot.
Correct. No, I already know what it is. It comes in an Amazon package and that's my present. Like, I guess I know what I'm getting. 2 things that I got that I'm happy about. A, I got a stool. Last 2 podcasts, the way the way that camera was above me, it wasn't above me, it was like down below, made me look like Jabba the Hutt. So I'm like, okay, I have to get a good position. The other thing is I got another slab. So I'm a card collector. I've become a card collector recently, mostly guys that I like. So this one I have right now on, I was able to get a slab for it to put in, I wear for a podcast. This is a Wade Boggs PSA 10, but he actually signed it, Chicken Man on it, which is really cool. So I'm wearing a Wade Boggs signed card for today. And then
that's great.
And then for next week, I was telling you I'll be out in CES, but then I'm also bringing my family to Fenway Fest. My 2 little girls, it's just a good way to make sure they get involved with baseball. The way, it's a good way to introduce them into baseball. They're 7 and 5. So we'll be up at Fenway Fest on Saturday, which should be a good time. I was telling other people on Twitter, if you get a chance, if you got kids, if you're in that age group, you should go out there and bring the kids. It should be a good time. And you also see, going back to last year, 2025, right? This is where it's kind of started with Devers because they wanted him to appear at Fenway Fest and he didn't. And they're like, we paid you a ton of money. Baseball isn't just baseball anymore. It's also a business and you're not showing up. And I'm happy to see someone like Roman Anthony is going to be there at Fenway Fest. That's what they're looking for. So,
yeah.
I'll be
there not to mention, I'm trying to think back. I don't even think we had signed Bregman at this point last year, right? Wasn't that into February?
Correct. So he was already, and that's what people don't understand. People were like, well, had he just had a conversation with him about not playing third, which I disagree with anyways, but we're not going to go into that one. But the point is, the signs were already there. He was already angering the front office because they expected him to be more vocal in the community and to be at events like this because it's part of the brand. They said, we're paying you, was it $330 million? We want you to be visible. And he wasn't visible.
Yeah.
So this started it. Was at Fenway Fest. Really, if you look at it, it wasn't the Bregman signing. It was Fenway Fest 2025 is what upset or started the malcontent from Devers and the organization.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Now on to beer. As we do every podcast, us being our 3rd podcast, and so far, at least for me, I've been 3 separate beers. So this one I have up. The camera's light's too bright on it. It's called Other Half. It's
I'm familiar with Other Half.
You know what that? I have no idea what this is.
It is it's in Williamsburg in Brooklyn. The brewery.
You're right. It is
a handful of
100%.
times. Yeah. I've been out there. I got a good amount of buddies that live up in Brooklyn actually. So I've gone up there, and my fiance right now used to live in New York. We did some long distance while she was in school, and so she was up in New York. So I used to go quite frequently up there, actually. But love Other Half, one of my favorite breweries, actually.
Oh, so I'm in for a treat then, huh? This is it's called Poetry Snaps Rice Lager.
Okay.
I don't know if I've ever had a rice lager before. I was reading the label on it, things I can't pronounce, German and Czech stuff. But this I can. I do understand this. Dry and soft with floral and sweet citrus notes. Have you had this one before?
I have not. I am a big IPA guy, which I'm sure you have started to pick up on, as I do have
Correct.
another one today. So 3 for 3 there. But so I've mostly had, I think I've only exclusively had their IPAs, which they have very good IPAs. So I
Okay.
would imagine that the rest of their stuff's pretty good too. I have not had I don't know if I've had a rice lager either, but I'm at least like familiar with them. There's this brewery I like down here in Atlanta too that has one that does very well on the market. So I assume that it's also pretty good.
I'll give it a shot. Well, I'm going to give it a shot. We'll see how good it is.
Yeah.
What do you got, Sean? What are you bringing to the table today?
I've got
Ooh,
Sweetwater,
it's a hazy.
which is hazy IPA called Tropical High. I've had this a bunch of times, but Sweetwater's another local Atlanta one that's one of the older breweries here, I think. But they do distribute throughout most of the Southeast, and I think at least some into the Northeast a little bit as well. So I was down in Florida visiting my mom over the holidays, and they had it there. And I'm pretty sure I've had at least some Sweetwater up in New York as well. So it gets around a little bit, but it's always a solid choice. So.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard of it before.
Yeah, their flagship one
know.
is the 420, which is a pale ale.
Okay.
Which is that's like their number one that they've had for a while. But this is one of the newer ones. But I'm a fan. So
Well, let's do this right. Ready? I'm gonna open mine
Yeah.
up. You're gonna open yours up, and we'll see.
there we go.
It kind of smells like rice. Mine's very. Look, I'm 2 for 2 on beers. Personally, this is very good. I could drink this.
Yeah.
I mean, I could drink this watching a game. I could drink this at a fancy dinner. I feel like this is your go-to all-around beer. Like I said, it kind of smells like rice. It tastes good. I can't explain it. It's got like it has like a grainy taste to it. It's good. How about yours?
It's good. It's got a nice little fruity aftertaste to it. But yeah, the hazies are always my favorite. They're just the more like juicy types of IPAs that go down a little smooth, a little less bitter than your prototypical like American style one. But
And this one too, this one says it has the floral and citrus notes. You can definitely taste the floral. No, and usually I'm not a big fan of the floral. Like it's okay. I kind of feel like I'm drinking a flower at times. Like it's too much for me, right? But because of the graininess of the rice, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I told you, other half is very solid. It's one of my one of my favorite breweries that I've had. So
I might have to make it a go-to, put it in my rotation. All right, we've had a decent amount of stuff that's going on since the last time that we've done a podcast together. I know me and you have talked beforehand. We have a pretty good rundown today. Let's start with the Japanese baseball players because all of them, at least the big ones, have signed. That's Amai, Murakami, and Okamoto. Murakami signed first. I'm not sure we really talked about it. Amai signed second, and then Okamoto signed shortly after. What do you want to start, Sean? Which one?
We can go in order of the signings, maybe. That makes sense.
Murakami?
Yeah,
Sure.
we can do Murakami first.
Before you break it down, Sean, my first question for you is him signing with the White Sox, A, was it a surprise? And B, did it foreshadow what this market was going to look like in your eyes? Or were you generally surprised by the next two signings?
I was a little surprised because, I mean, the White Sox, nobody's talking about them for anything in the news right now just because of how awful they've been over the last few years. But I'll say this, I think that it is the perfect kind of signing for a team like them to be taking a shot at. I mean, it's low risk, 2 years, but was it 34 million? Like if he doesn't translate in year one, then okay, cool. You got 1 year left. It's not that big of a deal. And you can move on from him, but he's 25. So you're giving him you're kind of getting a small sample size with a team with zero stakes whatsoever, not just low stakes, absolutely no stakes. So there won't be a ton of pressure on him. And I do think it's an environment that he could succeed in rather than going to someone like a Boston or even like a New York or the Mets or something like that, where it's like bigger market, a lot of pressure. If they don't make the playoffs, it's kind of viewed as a disaster. And specifically, if he doesn't perform and they don't make the playoffs, then it's just going to be really tough, the criticism that he'd have to deal with. But yeah, you and I mean, we've talked about him on previous pods before he signed, just the type of player he is, how we feel about him. He seems pretty feast or famine, high risk, high reward type guy potentially. So those are the exact kind of swings that I think a team like the White Sox should be making. However, I do not think it's the kind of swing that a team like the Red Sox should be making, because this team has already got a really nice foundation and they need proven commodities to sort of get them to the next level or over that hump. And he could not be further from a proven commodity, despite the upside. And I genuinely do think he has potential to be a good player. But with all that said, I just don't think it was ever the right fit for the Red Sox. But for the White Sox, I do like the signing. To your question on the market, I think it was, I mean, it was a lot lower than I expected. I'll say that. I never really believed the whole, like, he could get 200 million type thing, just based on some of the discourse around him and the uncertainty. And I mean, like, I feel like we kind of know when these guys are can't miss type players, like Ohtani was, or Yamamoto with the Dodgers. And those guys, like, there's a reason there was a huge bidding war for them. Other than that, it feels like there's very rarely sort of like that in between market for these guys to come over. It does kind of feel like I can't remember the last time we got someone that was in the like 120 to 150 range, you know, even like Suzuki with the Cubs or Yoshida coming over. Those guys were more still sub $100 million contracts, I'm pretty sure. I know Yoshida's was. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head what Suzuki's was, but he was really good last year for them anyway. But yeah, I mean, I think that because of the clear concerns for all of these guys, teams did kind of start to talk themselves out of them and say, like, look, I don't know if we want to go to whether that projection was. And there's just uncertainty anytime you're translating across different levels of talent like that. But for the White Sox, like I said, with his age, with the upside, with the power potential, and the low AAV in only 2 years, I think it was a no-brainer for them.
Caught me mid-sip. I agree. We've talked about it. We've talked about it before as well. And here's the thing. Am I surprised the White Sox signed him? Yes, I was. I just didn't expect the White Sox to be players at anything right now. I thought everything was going to be more, they're going to build and they're doing it right now, build their farm system up, their prospects up before they make a run again. Because I think they will make a run again. But again, when there's been weak Japanese markets or weak Asian Pacific Rim market prior in the past, they've gone to these mid-market, smaller market teams. There is a precedent here. I don't remember the guy. He was a third baseman. He was infielder for the Rays probably 15 years ago. Very similar. Was not a high-profile prospect. Do you remember who it was?
Iwamura. Am I saying that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're
100%
right. Yeah.
I think he was the starting second baseman the year that they made the World Series back in like 2008 or something like that, if I recall.
But he wasn't very good, right?
Yeah.
And so
he was the classic, like, I think he peaked out. He did have 1 year where he hit 290 or something like that, but zero power whatsoever. Nothing special as a defensive player either. So yeah, I mean, it was like a replacement level guy.
Correct. And so, yeah, exactly. So we've seen this before in the past where the big market teams will not spend for these guys if they don't believe that they have the ability to impact a team. They're not going to take that risk. They'll look elsewhere. Your mid-market teams will go, I'm going to call it dumpster diving or bargain hunting in the $1 CD bin for those that are old enough to remember, because it's worth it for them. I mean, it's not a lot of money. Murakami getting, I think, the most of the three, or equal to Tatsui. I think they might be equal in contract, but his is a little bit longer. Anyways, that's a precedent's been set before, and I thought it was foreshadowing. Me and you have talked about in previous podcasts that we did not believe that this group of players coming out were going to be at the same level that Ohtani was, a Daisuke from back in the day, even with his pedigree coming out, even at a Yoshida level, they weren't even. I mean, look at Yoshida's contract and what his bat projected to. It's about on par, at least contract wise, with Murakami, but the rest of them are below it, right? We felt that way. And so when the White Sox signed, I'm like, well, here we go. Here comes, it's going to be a mid-market race for the other two guys, which is exactly what ended up happening. And I agree with you. Murakami makes no sense in Boston, but for a team like Chicago, where his floor is 220 and 17 home runs, I mean, is that really any different than what
is that much better than what they're getting?
Yeah, exactly. Correct. They're already throwing that product out, so they're not going to get any worse by it. It's not going to handcuff them or hurt them on it.
Mm-hmm.
we'll move to the Amaya signing next, because this was a guy I was not big on at all. And I'll briefly tell you why I wasn't big on him, but I think it's a good move for Houston. Take a gamble on him. Undersized pitcher. He's like 5'10", I believe he is, right? Throws 93, 96 mile per hour fastball, high end, tops out, I believe, at 99 miles per hour. Has questionable changeup, off speed material. He throws an inverse slider similar to like Luis Castillo or Savage from the Blue Jays. The difference is because he has a very short angle. His pitching hand reach is much lower than the rest of them.
Extension,
and they were saying it was
yeah.
going to be a flat fastball, and therefore maybe hitters would get on top of it. I think a lot of that was a bunch of bullshit for people trying to make him seem like he had more value than he really did. Not to sound like the old man that sits on the porch and complains, but back in my day, if you threw a flat fastball, and I'm gonna date myself, a guy named John Wasden, who the Red Sox had traded to get when they had Jose Canseco. They traded Jose Canseco, and I believe they got John Wasden back. A guy that threw about 99 miles per hour, had a flat fastball, and got hammered. My point is, if you don't have secondary stuff that you can command and get people to swing and miss at, I don't care what your fastball comes on. They're just going to wait on it and hammer it. So I don't think Amai is that good of I don't think he's going to translate to be that good of a pitcher. I think you're looking at a guy that's high fours that may eventually become a good bullpen piece, but I think he's going to get hammered, personally. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think pitchers are almost a little even harder than hitters to, know how they're going to translate when they come over, just because pitching is such a variable thing, even for proven guys. Sometimes it's not abnormal for, career fourth, fifth starters to have random years where they have a sub-3 ERA, and vice versa, where these guys that are number one, number twos just have random bad years. So it's hard to tell, which I know kind of cop-out answer there, but I certainly, he's not someone that I had much interest in for the Red Sox from my perspective, just because, like I just said with Murakami, like they need proven commodities. They've already got enough sort of high upside, let's see what they could be guys on the roster with their young guys coming up with, Meyer, Christian Campbell. We'll see if Casas, when he comes back, like that. Those are the guys that are your high upside. We'll see what happens. And all of those guys are very cheap right now. So to throw money at more just, well, hopefully he translates type guys, like I just didn't see it for them. But I mean, I think the price was not bad, like you said. I mean, I think it was 3 years, 54 or 51 or something like that. So again, it's not a huge commitment. I do think for Houston, if I was an Astros fan, I would be a little disappointed, just because they're probably going to lose Framber Valdez, and that is certainly not a 1-for-1 swap out, in my opinion. I think Valdez is a clear cut, at least low end number one on in a rotation, and I'd be kind of surprised. I'd be shocked if that's what Imai comes in and does right off the bat, at the very least. And so if they were going to sort of backfill Valdez, I think they were maybe hoping it was someone more in the vein of a Dylan Cease or something like that, or at the very least like a Ranger Suarez or a Michael King, or at least proven commodities where they've got the high floor there, because after Hunter Brown, they don't really have like a ton to be super excited about in that rotation, other than just kind of like, I feel like they've got a lot of like 3 and 4 type guys, but I don't know who's going to step up as that number 2, which is obviously a similar problem the Red Sox have had after Crochet. So a bit long-winded, sorry, but yeah, that's generally my thoughts on him. I'm not going to go as far to say that I think he's definitely going to be a bullpen arm like you did, but I can't like say for sure that won't be the case, obviously.
I spent some time in this past week in a lot of live streams for Mets fans, Mets blogs, Astros as well. Curious what their thoughts were on them. Yeah. Both of them, both the Mets and the Astros, I kind of floated out to some of the people on there. This is where I think Giolito lands with one of those two teams. I think Giolito's a perfect landing spot, because both of those teams don't have a true ace. So they're going to try to look for a quality 5 quality five, right? The quality five where, maybe Giolito, and we saw last year, Giolito would have starts where he looked like an ace
Yeah.
and then get absolutely hammered. So I think Giolito makes a lot of sense for both those teams, because exactly what we're talking about. They don't, I mean, especially the Mets, but the Astros after Hunter Brown have nothing, so they need depth there. And Imai I don't think is going to be a
Yeah.
solid number 2. So maybe you hope someone like Giolito gets back to, one full year after his injury. I know last year he got injured at the end of the year, but maybe one full year to really ramp up. Maybe he'll be ready to go and be a number 2, take the risk on it. And the Mets fans were very upset about Imai as well. I'm thinking to myself, that's not what you guys. I personally believe Framber Valdez is going to go to the Mets. He is a true number 1. And again, if Valdez goes to, he could be a true number 1, a 1A, a 1B. We'll call him a 1B, not in the same level as like a Crochet or Hunter Brown, but we'll call him a 1B, even though he's a little bit of a head case. But yes, him on the Mets, and then again, you don't want a guy like Imai. You want more of a guy like Giolito. Good for like you said. I think the Astros kind of figured that because they're not bringing back Framber, because they weren't able to grab another top tier starter, they're going to try to win by quality and throw some darts, and maybe Imai sticks. I just don't think he's sticking. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't watched enough Japanese baseball, but I've read enough and seen it. And you start seeing these things, these spin words. We're trying to talk about flat fastball being a good thing. A flat fastball is not a good thing. You've got no secondary pitches. You're going to get hammered. So maybe the first time around, maybe the first time around he gets lucky. Maybe I had people tweeting at me in May, like, he's got a 3.2 ERA. Yeah, we'll see what he's got by August, September. So, but again,
it's fair.
Imai was not a guy that I was looking for either.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I said, I just too much variability, and I think, we'll talk about Okamoto in a second, and he's probably the highest floor, like at least somewhat of a sure thing. Just at least like that in his worst case, he's still probably going to be a starting caliber player. But for the purpose of the Red Sox, I didn't really want any of the 3, to be honest, because I wanted sure things that we've seen produce in the major leagues.
Well, the third guy, let's get to him. I would have been okay if the Red Sox got him and continued to spend money and continued to move their team around, because let's talk about what the Blue Jays did. I love this Blue Jays offseason. The 2024-25 offseason was a disaster for the Blue Jays. They were a team that said, look, we're willing to spend, and no one wanted to come to them. They ended up overpaying for Tony Taters. That's their big acquisition of last year. Fast forward to this year, right? They blew a World Series they should have won. They're right there. They know their window is right there. They go out and get Cease. They re-sign Bieber. And then the reason why I love the Okamoto deal for them is because he didn't cost a lot. We'll get into what we think his numbers are going to be. He didn't cost a lot, and still gives them the flexibility to sign, I believe, Bo Bichette or Kyle Tucker. And the question I asked for those on Twitter is, and this is how I believe that the Blue Jays are playing chess, would you rather have Okamoto and Bichette or just Bregman? Because that's what they ideally did. They got Okamoto to play third and still allows them to be able to get Bichette. I really believe if they signed Bregman, if Toronto signed Bregman, there wasn't going to be the opportunity to get a Bichette. And then it'd be really, I know the owner wants to spend money, but it'd be a stretch for them to get Tucker. So them getting Okamoto opened up the door for them to still be able to sign Bichette. Like I said, I love what they're doing. Your takes on it, Sean, and also give me your take on Okamoto as a player. What do you think he's going to be like in 2026?
Yeah, I thought this was a good deal for Toronto for the same reasons you kind of laid out, where I was always a little skeptical they were going to go Tucker and also bring back a Bichette, or Bregman is potentially an alternative there. I thought it was going to be an either or. I think signing Okamoto still makes it an either or for those guys, but now you're kind of getting the best of both worlds, where you're getting, like, Okamoto is obviously a step below Bichette and Bregman. Probably even if he pans out how people hope he will, just because those guys have been so good over their careers. But it's a smaller salary. I think it was $60 million 4 years. Like, it's not nothing, but it's still, you got him locked up at a $15 million AAV for what should essentially be the rest of his prime years. I think he'll expire when he's 33 or something like that. So being able to add that and still get a Tucker or a Bichette, I think that, to your point, that's sort of a best case scenario for Toronto, just because I don't think it was realistic that they were going to be able to sign Bichette to some $200 million contract and then also Tucker to some potentially $4 million contract, whatever his number is going to end up being. At the same time, I do think this also is strangely good for the Red Sox. I know obviously it sounds weird saying that a division rival who was one win away from winning the World Series, adding a good player and completing what I said was their best case scenario would be good for us. But I just mean in the sense that I do think it takes them off the table for Bregman, most likely. I personally think they'll either get Tucker or they'll bring Bichette back. But that means that it's less competition for Bregman. It also increases the chances that Bichette goes somewhere else, I think, just because if they do get Tucker now, then I think that they're basically going to be done spending on that offense. And so I think that it increases the likelihood of Bichette back to going to Boston too. So I think it just, with them sort of reallocating money to someone that the Sox probably weren't really targeting at this point anyway, in favor of players that they are targeting, I think that is a win, at least in a vacuum, for just the Red Sox in their perspective.
You know my problem. You know my problem with that is though is that we are sitting here thinking about it in the way that the Red Sox won't spend money. Therefore, every time there is a suitor off the table for the player, that we feel better about it, where we should just go out and get the best player and not worry about other teams. That's how it used to be, so that you still win, right? Because even if we get Bregman back, even though we get Bregman back, we still have to face the Blue Jays now, which is going to be tough. It's going to be tough if they execute the way they want to execute. I don't like playing the game where it's, well, no one's asking her to the prom. We're the last one standing. I guess she'll come with us, right? Instead of executing the game plan that we wanted to execute, the way the Blue Jays are doing it. That's what I want to see the Red Sox doing. I don't want us this time next year having a conversation saying it's a war of attrition or they picked us out of necessity. I don't want that. That's what pisses me off about the way the organization runs the team currently, that we're sitting there having a conversation saying, thank God, we're scared of the Blue Jays. Say it, Sean, with me. We're scared of the Blue Jays.
We are scared of the Blue Jays.
We're scared of the Orioles. We're scared of any team willing to spend money. And we're sitting there saying, I hope you don't pull out your checkbook so that we can get them at a steal. And that's what frustrates me.
Yeah, you are not wrong at all. And it is sad to hear myself and the conditioning that I've taken on from this team that to your point,
us
in the past, anytime they've conditioned us, literally, and anytime that in the past they were like, we want to add this guy, they got it done, and we weren't coming in second place very often, and if we were, it was to someone like the Yankees giving out some absurd number, like with Ellsbury, for example, where it was like, fine, that's a number that is kind of just ridiculous at that point. Whereas some of these aren't even really that ridiculous, and they're just crunching their numbers and sticking to their models and their stupid financial mandates, whatever they have from ownership. So I totally agree with you. And it is very unfortunate that, unfortunately, this just is the lens that I'm viewing it through. But I'm trying to operate under that assumption and understand it best. It's like,
because what are we going to do?
You can be, then you're just going to be disappointed every time. Yeah.
Correct. Get a little upset about it, but it's the case. I hate it. I hate that we have to talk this way. And we do have to talk this way.
It is so stupid.
It's sad. It's just sad. It wasn't the way it was. To your point, there's only been a couple years where we've been number one. Other years we've been number 2, 3, especially during our heyday. But we got one of our guys, and it was never. And one of our guys was still. I mean, back in the day, Tucker, Bregman, or Bichette. By now, one of them would have been on the Red Sox, period. Yeah, we might have lost one out to the Yankee. Yeah, correct. But I remember it all changed with Manny Ramirez. We gave out a big contract. We got the best player in the game, and that was it, right? And so now it's not even that. Now we're sitting here arguing about, scraps. Not even scraps, but I don't want Kyle Tucker on this team, but the old Red Sox, Kyle Tucker would be in play. He would be in play. He makes no sense
Yeah.
for the team. I don't want like not that he's not a good player, but he would
That
be in
hasn't
play.
stopped
They'd
them
be
in the past, though. Think back 2014. They had a disappointing year after the World Series, traded off some guys, and it didn't work out. Obviously, it did not. But they go out and they get Sandoval and Hanley Ramirez, both of which didn't make much sense positionally for the team. They were throwing Hanley out in left, which he had never played before, and he was losing athleticism anyway. Obviously, eventually ends up playing at first. He did actually have one very, very good year for the Sox at first base. But aside from that, kind of a disaster. The Sandoval thing is probably the worst signing in team history. But at that point, they at least tried, and they took the loss on the chin with Sandoval. They cut ties like earlier rather than later just to try to justify it. And it didn't stop them from then a couple years later being like, we don't have a number one pitcher. Let's go sign David Price. And then they realized that wasn't enough. And they're like, okay, well, let's go trade our top prospect for Chris Sale. And they just kept going. Every time they identified the weakness on the team, they would directly address it. And now it feels like that's just not how they're operating.
So what are your thoughts of like Okamoto? Like if you 20 home runs, he's going to hit the 20 home run clip in the next 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to be a 25 to 30 home run guy perennially or anything like that. But yeah, I think somewhere in the 20 range is realistic. I mean, if you look at his overseas number, he did have he had a stretch of 33, 31, 31, 39, 30, 41, and then 27. And then last year he only played 77 games. So the number's a little lower. So, but he was a consistent 30 home run guy there. So we can't sit here and say for sure that he couldn't reach that number at least a couple times on this contract. But I do think there will probably be a little bit of a learning curve with just major league pitching. But I think he's got a good foundation in the sense that he's not a high strikeout guy. He gets on base. He's got good discipline at the plate. And also he's going to have a ton of protection around him in that lineup. I mean, he's not going to a team where they're expecting him to be the guy that's hitting 30, 40 home runs for them, especially if they eventually add Bichette or Tucker. Then you've got one of those guys plus Vlad Guerrero, he was the most feared man in baseball during the last month and a half of last season. So we know that they've got the reinforcements around him to be able to, he's not going to get pitched around is the point. They're going to go right at him, especially before he proves himself. So I think he can be a, above average contact guy, around the 20 home run mark. But again, that could be plus or minus 5 to 10 potentially, with the upside that he has. And then we know he's also a good fielder, and he's got versatility where he can play third base or first base. Obviously, I expect him to play mostly third for the Jays just because they've got Vlad at first, and Springer was basically their full-time DH last year. But it gives them flexibility. If Springer goes down, they can put Vladdy at DH and move him over to the first, or if they want to put Springer in the outfield on some days, they can do the same sort of maneuvering there. So I think, the versatility, the discipline at the plate, the high contact rate, all of those things will, at the very least, give him sort of a high floor as a player. I think the question with him is that ceiling. Can he be a 32 to 35 home run guy, even like once or twice during this 4-year contract? That's still kind of up in the air.
So I'm going to say my projection is no, never. I think he'll be lucky if he ever stiffs 20 home runs. I'm going to put him at 18. Another projection is 25. Okay. Only one Japanese player has ever had a OPS that's succeeded their OPS in Japan. That was Ohtani. He was the only outlier. No one else has ever done it before in Japan. They've always come back and regressed. Even though they've had good years, OPS has never been higher than what that was.
You mean just for
Japan.
Career?
Career, correct. Yeah, correct.
Okay, fair.
It's never happened.
Because I was going to say, I was like, Matsui probably had some pretty damn good.
I was going to go into Matsui.
OPS years, yeah.
They called him Godzilla for a reason. He hit 50-plus home runs in Japan. He never came close to that in New York, right? He never did. Very good hitter. And so where I think he's going to land, Okamoto on a really good team is a great piece at the bottom of your lineup. I think he's going to bat like 260, 18 home runs. To your point, I do agree with you 100% on the ability to command the strike zone from a batter's perspective. He's going to draw walks. He's going to be pesky. And I think you're going to watch a couple games this year where he comes, like, you don't want to face him in the 8th inning with a man second and third and one out.
Mhm.
I think that's where he's gonna live down as a number 8, number 9 guy, 7 guy, somewhere around there. He's gonna be an absolute menace down there where he's like, I still want to face this guy. The same way you didn't want to face Matsui, right? You just didn't
Yeah.
want to face him with men on base with in a clutch situation. I believe that's where Okamoto comes in, and that's
Mhm.
fine for the Blue Jays because if they bring back a Bichette or Tucker with Vlad up top as well, they got enough firepower to also hold down the front of that lineup where they're going
Yeah.
to score runs and then also cause chaos in the bottom half of the lineup. That's where I think
Mhm.
he moves in. I think he's a good pick there. I don't think he sniffs anywhere close to over 20 home runs, and that's why I think the contract is the contract. That's why he got 15 million a year.
Mhm.
All right, we're moving on because we got about we're about 40 minutes into the show so far. I want to touch on the Wilson Contreras deal. Me and you have not touched on it prior.
Yeah.
I'll go through it. I know I created that model. I spent my New Year's Eve and New Year's creating a working model that actually I can plug in and see projections. And I bring a lot of
Mhm.
there's a lot of stuff that I bring into the model to make it work, including batted ball simulator, park factors, all the sabermetrics, exit velocity, et cetera, to try to figure out how a player is going to perform. Not to
Mhm.
bore you with it, but I have a regression model, a progression model, stability model, standard deviation model. Like, again, not going to bore you into it, but I plugged the numbers in for Contreras, and I was actually thinking, okay, this is very realistic, maybe a tad higher than I thought it was going to be, but very
Mhm.
realistic. I'm looking at them, and if Wilson Contreras performs this way in Fenway, along with bringing back a Bregman or a Bichette, Roman Anthony takes a step forward, Marcelo Mayer takes a step forward. This team had the best record in baseball last year when Anthony was healthy. We could be a menace with Contreras. I know he's gotten mixed reviews on Twitter, but I think he's a
Yeah.
lot better. A lot if he could play if he could play a full season, I think people are gonna be very happy with maybe 1 year of production out of him before he falls off the cliff. Because I think eventually we're on the precipice of that happening because of his age and the fact he's played catcher for such a long time.
Yeah.
I'll take a pause. Sean, your thoughts on Contreras in general in the trade?
Yeah. I feel almost identical to how I felt when we talked about the potential of it beforehand. And basically, just to summarize what I had said was along the lines of like, look, if is this the move that I was all excited about them making coming into the offseason? No, it's not. I was hoping for Alonso or something more equivalent to that level of player and just surefire power at the first base spot. However, I do think the Red Sox are objectively a better team with him on it than they would be without him on it, because we've talked about this. First base is a massive question mark. And of course, we'd love to add like Marte and Bregman or some combination of all those guys, but that still leaves a really big hole at first base regardless, unless someone's going to have to be learn a new position or play out of position. So they kind of just did need to address first base. I probably prefer this over a Suarez, for example, just because of the age and the strikeout factor and all that. And of course, if he hits 50 home runs, then he's worth it. But if he even falls back to 32, which is still a lot, then it starts to become a trade-off of, well, he's striking out a lot. He's not a good fielder, all these other things and issues that he brings that you might not be willing to live with if he's not hitting 50 bombs. But with Contreras, like, he is a good hitter. I know people have said he's been one of the 10 to 15 best right-handed bats over the past few years. Like, I think probably in spurts. I don't know if I'm going to go that far, but I think he's a good player. I think he will play a very good first base. So he should help the defense on top of things. I know that's not what you want to hear based on your rant, but I do think he'll help both sides of the ball. And if this is the only move, then I'm not going to be happy about it. But I don't think it will be. I still think in my heart that they will add, at least one more of Bregman or Bichette or someone like
They
that.
have to. They got to. They have to.
I think ultimately they will bring back Bregman is what I think will happen. Obviously, I prefer Bichette, which we've talked about. I think you do too at this point. So, but regardless, if they bring back Bregman, just for the sake of argument, they added Sonny Gray to replace Giolito. They added Wilson Contreras. Like, if I told you that was going to be the offseason ads going into the offseason, I think we both would have been very disappointed. But if you take a step back and think about, like, they are better on paper. The pitching staff is at worst as good, probably a little better. Adding Contreras to basically the same lineup as last year, but with a full year of Roman Anthony, with the only upside plays from guys like Meyer and Casas, whereas like last year, Casas was like needed to be good or else the offense was going to struggle. And we saw how bad some of the first base production was with like Abraham Toro throughout most of the year. I know
And
Romy had a
Casas
good
was
year.
terrible before the injury. He was terrible,
Totally,
man.
yeah, he was very bad.
We went to Texas that opening series. We could not score runs. He was
No,
atrocious.
it was bad. But the point is, the lineup is deeper. It's got more upside than it did last year. All of those things are true. He's not Rafael Devers at first base, but I do think the most annoying / like disappointing part of this deal is that the Cardinals eating $8 million just so we could give him a prospect sort of thing. Like, why couldn't they just eat the contract? $8 million, that's saving you $4 million a year. Is that really going to be some major difference? And I think that we probably would not have had to throw in as much as we did if they did not eat part of the contract. Not that it was some huge overpay or like anything like that, but we were talking about the MLBTradeValue.com. We were doing our fake trades with Duran. Like, Contreras has negative value on that website because of his contract just being as big as it is for his age and the production and lack of games he's played over the last few years. So, like, in theory, they should have to attach something to him just for us to take him based on that. Of course, I don't think those are always true in reality because it's not like the contract's insane. It's like 2 for 41 or something like that. But regardless, he's an overpaid player a little bit, just given that he's 33 and, he's got that option for age 35 or whatever it may be. But I do overall think they're a better team with him, but it's not a perfect deal just because of the money thing. And then the fact that, like I said, if you asked us this question 2 months ago, we would have been like, not super excited about it.
Yeah, and I wasn't. I mean, I wasn't. And the more I've talked myself into it and the model that I created, which I plugged him in. So let me just tell you what my projections have for the model. And you made the comment that he's one of the best right-handed hitters, and you see it because one of the things that I had in my model is a batted ball simulator, and it looks at Fenway Park. I cranked up a little bit the park factor around Fenway just to make it a little bit more fun. But again, it also takes the spray charts into account. And we started doing that. We took a spray charts from last year and just overlaid everything into Fenway Park. It was a 10, 12, whatever extra home runs. Like, wow. But this does a better job of realistically playing your half your game. So I think I put it at 580 plate appearances, like 140 games. If he could get to that, because he hasn't before, right? This would be an all-time high if he played that many games. Also a knock on Contreras. But I got him as an 890 OPS with 28 home runs and 121 weighted runs created plus. That 890 OPS, partially because of Fenway factors, I think it gave him 14 extra doubles. But if I told you we signed a guy that is going to a 261 batting average and 890 OPS with 28 home runs, granted it's not Alonso upside, and we could put another guy like Bregman or Bichette there. We didn't have that last year. Like, we did not have that at all. Bregman did not do that. Let's make this clear. Bregman did not put up those numbers. Roman Anthony did not put up those numbers. We did not have a guy on this team last year with an 890 OPS and 28 home runs. So if I told you in 2026, you're getting Wilson Contreras, and that's the production he's going to give us, what you're signing up for, right? What are your thoughts? Like, you're taking that.
I'd take that. I mean, like you said, that would have been far and away the best hitter on the team last year. Not only just from the on base and slugging aside with like doubles and walks and whatnot, but just the 28 home runs. I mean, we didn't have anyone that sniffed that number. And so I think, to your point, yes, I would take that. Do I think that that's the level of production he's going to have? I consider me definitely skeptical. I think that is probably, I think that's probably a best case scenario. Like, that's the ceiling. So I think just like for my own expectations,
I think the OPS is the ceiling. Yeah, I think he could hit the 28 home runs, 30 home runs. He could absolutely do. It's the OPS, the ceiling. Can he get those 14, 15 extra doubles that he wouldn't have gotten otherwise? I don't know about that one, but
yeah,
the model says.
No, it's fair. I mean, his per 162 games for his career is 26 homers. So obviously he's not going to play 162, but to your point, Fenway is probably a better park for him than, is it Busch Stadium? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Which is more pitcher friendly than hitter friendly typically. So So I hear you that there could obviously be a little bit of a bump up there. And to your point, I think maybe he's in a better lineup than he was last year, just in terms of the Cardinals offense was not very good. Two, I know he hasn't played a ton of games, but he did play 135 last year, which was the second highest of his career, which I also don't think is total coincidence by the fact that he's not playing catcher anymore. So I think a lot of the reasons why he's hovered in the 100 to 120 range in the past is just because of the wear and tear of playing catcher while also being relied on to be one of the better hitters in the lineup. So I think those factors could contribute to him playing, I'm not going to say definitely a career high, but more in the range of where he was last year at the very least, unless he, I mean, you can never control injuries, obviously, but I think if he's playing first base with some DH sprinkled in there, I could just see him being more durable across the board despite the age factor. So with all those things, do I think he could have a little bit of a tick up in that manner? Yes. But again, I'm gonna I lean cynical and skeptical on these types of things in general. So do I think that is in the realm of possibilities? Yes, but I think it's more of a best case as opposed to like a median case, which I'll say this, I still think his median case outcome is still 20 to 23 home runs and OPS in 800s, which is, I think, extremely reasonable, if not likely.
I'm looking for a piece of paper to write it down. We will revisit it All-Star break. I'm really curious to see how it turns out. I think like I said, where I disagree with you on, I think the home runs is very much reasonable. The OPS might be a little bit high, but again, if we get that, we both agree, we'd sign up for that 7 days out of 7 days a week. Absolutely. For 1 year, right?
Yeah, no question.
So speaking of my model, let's pull up. I'm going to share my screen on this one. My first time doing this one, so take it easy on me on this one. Let's share the model I put together on, there we go. On Bichette, Donovan, and Alex Bregman. So what I did using the model that I created, I took Bo Bichette, put his batted ball simulator, overlaid in Fenway Park, run it through the regression, or actually for him, because of his age, he does not have a regression model. Same with Donovan, and then compared Bregman as well. It uses the last 3 or 5 years of data. For Bichette, I actually omitted his 2024 year when he was injured to see, because I wanted it to be more of an accurate reflection of what he has accomplished sans 2024. So Bichette, Donovan, Bregman. Again, Donovan was hurt last year too. Turf toe turned into a lot more. And I look at these numbers. I'm not sure if you can see them on the screen, and when I go and edit the podcast, I'll make sure they're larger. But Bichette and Donovan, it's not even close. And look, one thing that surprised me was Donovan, but Bichette and Donovan, the eye test says they are a lot better than Bregman if you brought them over here. My first question for you before we even dive into these numbers is, what are your thoughts on Brendan Donovan? I know that's been floated around. And when I first heard it, I'm like, I don't want another Cardinals player on this team. There's a reason why that team wasn't very good last year. I don't want to
give us Arenado while you're at it, right?
Yeah, like the team wasn't very good last year. Why do we want all of their leftovers, right? How can you build a World Series team with a bunch of players, core players that couldn't win for the Cardinals? But looking at Donovan and a healthy year playing, again, this is a 580 plate appearances. Those numbers are ridiculous. A 291 average, an 851 OPS, and 17 home runs. Again, I don't want him. I've talked about this before, not because I don't think he's a good player. I just don't think he's a good fit in Boston. We have too many left-handed hitters. I'd rather have we need a right-handed bat. But what are your thoughts on Donovan as a player? Like, are those numbers, do you think those numbers are legitimate in Fenway Park if he played here in Boston?
I feel like the homers are a little high based on what he's produced to this point. I mean, he has yet to hit 15 in a single season. His per 162 is only 13. So again, it's not like 17's way off from that, but that would obviously be the best power season of his career. And again, maybe that
he's only
could
played
be the case in Fenway.
But he's only played one full season, right? That was in 24. He had 153 games and he hit 14 home runs in Busch. So I'm only giving him 3 more home runs here in Boston.
No, that's fair. Season. But I get that. I'm still going by the rates, you know. I mean, like his first season, he played 126 and only at 5. Of course, you could argue that was 4 years ago, and he's a better player now, which is totally fair. But I'm skeptical on the power, is all I'll say. Like, I think similar to what I said about Contreras, I feel like the 17 is maybe sort of a best case for him. Like, I'd be pretty shocked if he ever is a 20 homer guy. And 17 is obviously not that far off. I think the average is totally fair and doable. But in terms of Donovan overall as a fit for the Red Sox, I 100% agree with you that he two things can be true. One, he is a very good player that could help a lot of teams. And two, I don't think the Red Sox are that team. Just because the things he excels at, just him being a good fielding infielder that bats left-handed and hits less than 20 homers, that's just like not what they need. They've got good defensive players on the roster. I know obviously they were not great at every spot last year, but we've got sort of defensive specialist guys like Cedar Rafael already. We've got a bunch of guys that are hitting in that 15 to 20 home run range. Like those numbers to me, as a left-handed batter, they look a lot like Jarren Duran's numbers year to year. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, why are we so fixated on we want to trade Duran and then add a guy like Donovan? I understand the defensive positioning of that and how that would be the easy answer to it. But I'm like, I think Duran has more offensive upside than Donovan has. And so if we're dumping a guy just to add another guy who's less proven in this certain situation in Boston with similar projections, I'm like, why not just keep the guy you already had and then move Rafael at a second? Then boom, there you've got your Gold Glove defense at second that you'd get with Donovan as well. So I don't know. It feels like over engineering of the roster when you could have something similar already on the team right now. So I think, like I said, Donovan for certain teams, I think is kind of exactly what they need, where they've got the big bats already there and they just need complementary guys that can get on base and play good defense. But for Boston, that's just not what they need.
The way I look at him is he's a better Yoshida. Right? Maybe if we didn't have Yoshida on the team and to your point, maybe Duran, he'd make a ton of sense for them because he's very similar in type of play style. That's a ball play style that Yoshida is. Good discipline, high walk to low strikeout ratio, very good contact, things that the team needs. And I like Yoshida a lot. I really think Yoshida plays well on a team that's well built, that has type of players and it has the power, et cetera. I think Yoshida can play very well in that type of lineup. Donovan is just a more versatile Yoshida because he can play the field better than he can. Maybe a little bit more power upside than Yoshida does. But that's my problem. We already have, to your point, Duran, Yoshida. Where you're going to put Donovan, we have too many left-handed bats. But I guess where I was more surprised, and because Donovan just really hasn't played a full season except for 2024, he keeps getting injured or partial seasons, I was more surprised on how good of his bat was going to play and how well his bat would play in Fenway. I think those numbers are actually pretty close to where I think they would happen to. Again, I know you're looking at per 100s, but he's only played one full season, so it's been a hard sample size for him to look at. He's been stop and go, injured in other past years, so one full season, it's very much legitimate. And I didn't think he'd be this good.
Yeah, and I think those numbers are certainly within the realm of possibility. I wasn't saying like that's totally unrealistic or anything like that. It's more just that it's they, even if he puts up those numbers, like I still like that's not what we need. We don't need 17 homers. We need 28 homers, So that's where I'm just like, even regardless in his best case scenario season, I'm agreeing with you that I just don't think he's the right fit.
So let's move over to Bichette then, right? And I have a couple of things highlighted. This is Bichette, batted ball simulator, played in Fenway Park, and then run through the model. I got him as 2026. I got him at 310 average, an 859 OPS, 119 weighted runs created plus, which I can argue that stat too. We can go, I won't do that today, but I can argue why that stat's flawed, as a lot of stats are, but it is a flawed stat. And 22 home runs. What do you think about those projections? Do you think that's accurate for Bichette? 859 OPS, 22 home run, 310 average.
Yeah, I think those are totally in the realm of possibility. I mean, he hit 311 last year, 306 2 years ago, 290 the year before that, 298, 301, 311. I mean, he's got a 294 career batting average. So like he's hit 290 or better basically every single season except for his down 2024. So 290 is basically his floor. We've seen the 310 level upside from him is recently his last season. And I know you and I have talked about his power dip a little bit over the last few years, but I think 22 is totally on the table. Like I said, his per 162 in his career is 24. So it's above that number anyway. Again, do I think he's going to play 162? Not necessarily, but 22, I think, is a reasonable, modest, median level outcome for him as a power guy. Like, even he is kind of one of those guys where it feels like he's got more power than the results have maybe actually shown. And I mean that in a good way. Just so like when he's up, and again, when we face him, I am terrified of him as a threat to hit it over the fence every single time, as is now. So I think those numbers are super realistic, and I think that's why that, paired with his age being the youngest one of the group here, I think he's my top choice for them to add, even over a guy like Bregman.
And that's the reason why, I mean, I look at the Bregman numbers, and if that's what we get out of Bregman, I'm scared. That's what worries me about Bregman is, did we see a Bregman second half of last year? I'm not going to say it's going to be that bad in 2026, but was it foreshadowing is that we're not going to get back the Bregman we saw before? Because according to my model, and it did show there was some luck in his stats in years previously as well. According to my model, right, we're looking at a 265 average. He still puts up the 804 OPS, which I'm going to sign up for, because second half of last year, I don't believe he hit the 800 OPS. So if we get 804 out of him, I'd be very happy with that. 112 weighted runs created, only 19 home runs. I mean, that's night and day between, in my opinion, looking at between him and Bichette.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I think me and you have pushed so hard for Bichette, is because if I'm going to give someone, and I don't believe the rumors that we offered Bregman 30 million AAV over 5 years, because if that was the case, he'd be signed today.
he would've signed
all of us
already,
would be pissed off. Like, why didn't we give it to Alonso? But anyways, and that's why my rant in the beginning of the whole podcast was about defensive metrics, and people are sitting there trying to be okay with trying to defend him from a defensive metrics standpoint. It doesn't matter. We saw what Alex Bregman did in the playoffs last year. I can't live with a 19 home run guy who just hits singles. We're paying $30 million a year for his defense. That's why I was getting worked up now about it. Looking at those two, Bichette and Bregman, it's a no-brainer of why we have to go with Bichette. I'm going to be happy if we sign Bregman because we need him. We can't run him with just Contreras. It's almost like a desperation. Like I feel like we stink of desperation. Bichette compared to Bregman is the better guy. I even think, looking at Donovan's numbers, even Donovan's better than Bregman, and that's crazy. And that's crazy to say. Like, I know that's crazy to say offensively. Look at the two, but like, that's where we are. And I feel like in 2026, we're buying Alex Bregman on name value alone, trying to make a point that his defensive prowess and his leadership abilities is worth it. Again, Manny Ramirez was not malcontent, just he pissed off people in the clubhouse. He was a terrible defensive outfielder, and that team won championships. He was a 2004 World Series MVP, one of the best hitters I've ever seen. I just don't want to hear this bullshit anymore about Bregman and his defensive ability and his ability to be able to mentor young people. Look at the numbers. Bregman's numbers don't do it for me. At the same time, I'm so desperate that I'll just take them. I'll take it. Because what else are we going to do?
I have a question for you. Why do you think that they spit out such low home run totals for him? Because 19 is pretty well below where he's been. Like, I know he had 18 last year, but that was only 114 games, over 162. He would have been on pace for around 26 last year. And if you just go year by year, I mean, in seasons he's played even just 120 games or more, he's hit 20 plus every single year since his first season as a full-time starter. So this would be a clear power regression for him that we really haven't seen. Last year he just did miss a ton of time, so I know the 18 is lower, but I'm going to put most of that on the fact that he missed those games, whereas the 26 that he was on pace for is kind of more in line with what we've seen out of him. So do you think it's just the age regression factor, or
there is an age regression in the model that does happen I think I have it set after 31. It goes into an 8, but not significant. I forgot the standard deviation goes into 4. It looks at other players around his age and sees what they've also regressed to and tries to do an average back to it, but also takes into his previous stats as well. Part of it is because of last year as well. Last year is, I did heavily weight in the 2025 season. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have been fair like with Bichette, but because of his age, I did it. Or the question really is, like, Did we see second half Bregman? Is second half Bregman 2026 Bregman? Is that just who he is now? I don't know. And again, he's 32.
Yeah.
So like, even if I bumped it up and put it at 22 home runs, right? I put it at 22, the same as Bichette, and maybe I give him a bump his OPS up a little bit. Still, it doesn't move the needle for me.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Bichette in that lineup. I'd rather have a guy that I know could slug higher as well. Is going to get because the other problem with, and this is the other part too, with the Red Sox last year was the ability to make contact, right? I know Bichette is a better bat to ball guy. Also, I forgot what it was in my algorithm as well. There was some luck that it determined as well from Bregman for the first half of last year. So in fact, very small, I forgot what it was, but there was some lucky statistics that actually inflated his numbers. Again, if we bring Bregman back, I'm okay with it because we need to bring him back. It's out of necessity. It's just that Bichette's the better fit. I think we both agree to that.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll say this though, I would still 10 out of 10 times rather have Bregman over Donovan, just because not only just the like what I feel is Donovan's kind of like best case numbers here, and this feels more like a worst case for Bregman. And of course, age is a factor in that, like you mentioned, but just the threat to hit home runs. I mean, Bregman's been a 20-25 homer guy basically throughout his entire career since he came up. And the only times he hasn't done it is when he's not played enough games to do so. And that's just what we need. I'm prioritizing power. It might be sort of narrow-minded view to kind of ignore other factors, like you mentioned, that Donovan might bring to the table, for example. But I would take Bregman over Donovan, no question. But I do still agree with you. Bichette is my first choice. He's been my first choice, and I'll continue to say that just because I do think really all the power upside that's there with Bregman is also there with Bichette. He's a way better, average hitter throughout his career. Worse fielder, like we mentioned, but again, I do think if he's playing second, he'll take a uptick there in terms of quality. And then the age factor, which we've continued to talk about, and especially with the numbers that are being thrown out there online with Bregman and in the 5-160 range, I'm like, why not just give Bichette 6-190 at that point? You know what I mean? It's only one more year, a little bit extra money, and like he's way younger, and I think that's probably realistic to where his contract's going to fall anyway.
I mean, eventually age comes for us all. So eventually Donovan's numbers will be better. I mean, it will happen. Donovan's numbers, unless he gets injured or loses playing time, it will eventually.
Well, average wise, I'm just saying, I think even 34-year-old Bregman easily can hit more homers than prime Donovan.
I hope so.
Yeah.
If we're going to sign him, I hope he does. Right? I hope that's the case.
Yeah, and I'm maybe too far skewing on the power side, but I just like we need, like, if we're not going to have a 30 home run hitting player, which honestly I don't think we probably will next year based on who's on the roster and who we might add, we need like 4 guys that are hitting 20 plus in order to be like where we need to be like well above average offense. And I'm like, maybe Willier can do it. Maybe Roman Anthony can do it. Maybe Contreras can do it. But then I'm like, 4th guys. I mean, Story did it last year, but I'm also like, I'm a little worried we're going to get some Story regression just because that season did kind of come out of nowhere from where he's been over the past few years.
Well, his first full healthy year, but I do it because it's age 33. I actually have him at. I have him at 22 home runs next year, but doing nothing else, right? I have his OPS at 771 and weighted runs created.
Yeah.
Plus at 105. Yeah. So I have him not being very efficient at it, right? So you're going to get home runs, but a whole bunch of nothing else on top of it. So either single or home run type of guy.
And like, I know I'm not saying we want to be the Yankees, but I'm like, look at their lineup. Didn't they have 8 guys that hit 20 homers last year? And that's on top
I don't want that.
But that's on top of the fact that they also had a guy who hit like 60. So it's like that. I agree with you. Their lineup has a lot of flaws and holes. They don't put the ball in play enough, and they strike out a ton, and they're very inconsistent. But I don't know. We need to be a little bit. We don't have to go so far on the other end of the spectrum. And the other thing is that, guess what? We kind of struggle with those same things too, and we're not.
I agree. That's why I like Yoshida.
Yeah.
That's why I like Yoshida. That's why I like guys like Donovan, because to your point, you need to balance them out. If you don't balance them out, you end up like the Yankees, And I don't want to be a fan of a team like that.
I get it.
That year was last year when they were, I mean, imagine being a Red Sox fan, and we lived through it one time and for a month, but imagine being a Red Sox fan, having a 10-game lead in the standings and blowing it because you can't score a run for 2 months. Unbelievably frustrating. Too streaky. I mean, maybe they'll get lucky in 1 year and be able to have power in the playoffs and carry them for 3-4 series and win a World Series. But you're asking for a lot. That's that's why they have a problem with their team, is they only can beat you one way. And if that way is not working, they're done. And so that's why I think you need a combination of both. So I agree with you on that one. I want the power guys. That's why I think Yoshida on the right team could be good. Donovan on the right team could be good. You know, I know me and Lou Merlone were going back and forth on it. I was arguing with him about Duran. He was arguing to have a platoon in the outfield. I just said the team's not built right now to have a platoon. But again, my problem with Duran, can't make contact. His contact to ball ratio is terrible. We need someone that can do that. Duran on the Mets, Duran on the Dodgers. I mean, that's a different story because you have that there. Duran on the Red Sox, we don't have the team built correctly for him to be optimal on this team. That's my
that's fair. I think that we still have more bat to ball guys than the Yankees do right now, even just currently constructed. You know, Roman Anthony is obviously one of those guys. Yoshida is one of those guys.
I'm not scared about the Yankees at all.
Yeah,
I'm not.
It's fair. Yeah. And Duran has done it a little in the past. I know it was down year last year, but the 2 years ago, Duran was. I mean, he still struck out a decent amount, but he was putting the ball in play like crazy still. So there's at least more potential for that with the current construction, where I'm like, Donovan, he helps with that, but do we think a couple less strikeouts for more singles alone is going to get this team over the hump? I'm just not totally buying that, which Bregman is still a low strikeout guy. So that he checks that box, and he gets on base with walks, and he has more power potential. So,
yeah. Well, this is going to bring us to the end of the show. I know we want to talk about the other moves, the dominoes that are going to take place. We can save that for next week's show as well. I don't think anything's going to happen between now and then. I could be wrong, but we'll see. And then we'll talk about the dominoes that will happen. Sean, good show as always. For those listening out there, thank you again for listening. Make sure you subscribe and like wherever you're listening from, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, something we haven't heard of yet, wherever it might be. It's probably being broadcast there, so please like and subscribe. Guys, enjoy your week. Sean and I will come back at you next week. I'll let you know how Fenway Fest is going. What do you think, Sean? Everything else good from your perspective?
Yeah, I'm excited to get updates from you on Fenway Fest. I have never attended at all, so I'm familiar with it. Obviously, I see all the coverage of it online. But I'm excited. Yeah, excited to hear what the experience is like in person, because I know correct me if I'm wrong. It might have been last year where John Henry was getting booed, and people
that was last year.
We're not very happy. Yeah, with the moves of the team. So,
well, that was they're going. What did they say? Not go all in. What did they say, Sean?
Full throttle.
Full throttle. Like, where's the full throttle? This is your full throttle. So that was last year, correct? The year before that, I didn't go either.
It worked. They bullied him into signing Bregman. So,
well, even the Bregman thing, from what we remember on that, this is what angers me about Craig. That was something that Cora pushed, right? Craig didn't want to sign him. There was a lot of reluctancy on it. That was a Cora push. So I don't know what would have happened. I'm sure it was spent on somebody else. I forgot who the other big free agents were last year, but yeah, I mean, and then the year before that was the Kayam year, and there was irritation, but there was some patience from Red Sox fans. And last year they were just pissed off, like we were being lied to, telling us full throttle. Like this is not full throttle. So I'll let you know. I'll let you know how it goes. We'll report back on it, and we'll go from there. But thanks everyone for listening. Sean, have a good night. Everyone else have a good night.
Yeah, thanks everybody.